and welcome to this week's episode of the Alder Hour, your favorite way to end your working day. I'm Matt Alder from Recruiting Future, and I'm also the presenter of the Alder Hour. This show is part of the Purple Acorn Network. So head over to purpleacornnetwork.com after the show if you want to learn more. You can also follow Purple Acorn on LinkedIn, which is a superb way to view all of the shows as they come out. This episode is also available as a podcast wherever you listen to your quality podcasts. Now, we are broadcasting live, so please leave us some comments below here. We've got some great topics, brilliant guests, lots of things to talk about, and we really like your feedback, and we will try and read them out as we go through. So if you watched the show last week, I was in a hotel in Vegas preparing for HR Tech, and I was slightly jet lagged. So I'm now back in Scotland, and I'm slightly jet lagged from coming the other way. So I really need to get my co-host up here to help me out. So hi, Rhona. Come and join us. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good. I'm excited to hear about how everything went at HR Tech.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to talk about it a little bit as we go along. But it was it was good. There were lots and lots of people exhibiting. There was a rumor going around that there might have been slightly less footfall than previous years, but I didn't notice that personally. It seemed quite busy, and there were lots of things going on. But yeah, I've just got the double jet lag, which is the my fault for living so far away, I suppose. And what have you been up to since last week?
I've been looking, like, trying to give myself FOMO from HR Tech, just looking at everyone's content and trying to see what was happening there. I've talked to a few people, and yeah, no one has said that it was empty or anything like that. Everyone has said kind of like, oh, it felt like other
Mm,
years. So
mm.
yeah.
Mm. Absolutely, and you've just released a new episode of your podcast as well,
Yes,
which is an interview with me.
I'm so excited. It's on YouTube today, an interview with Matt, which was amazing. And it will be on all podcast platforms tomorrow morning. So super, super excited for that. Everyone should check that episode out.
I endorse this message. So we don't have Jocelyn this week. She is traveling again, although I have seen her in between at HR Tech. But she's pre-recorded her segment. So we will be seeing her and hearing from her a little bit later on. Rhona, what do you have for us today on the show?
Oh, I'm talking about one that really I haven't been able to stop thinking about, and it's just career impersonation.
Career impersonation.
Yeah,
That
I think.
should be an interesting one.
Or like career identity theft, I think is a better name
Okay.
for it.
Okay, cool. So that's coming up right at the end of the show. So make sure you all hang around for that, because I think it's going to be a great conversation. Let's just get on with it. Let's get into Points and Pints, our first segment. So if you haven't watched the show before, why haven't you not watched the show before? But if you've not watched the show before, in this section, we look at a couple of headlines that we found in the news this week. And while we do that, we help ourselves to a refreshing beverage of our choice. Now, last week, I really let the side down because so it's about 8 o'clock at night here in Europe, or here in the UK. It's later in mainland Europe. And because it was 12 o'clock in Vegas, I just didn't have a drink because it didn't feel right. So I was a bit confused. So I let the side down by not having a drink. This week, I've gone all out, and I have a can of, back to my craft alcohol-free beer vibe. I've got a can of Joker IPA AF, which is made in Scotland, which is where I live. So I've had the one with the alcohol, but I've not had this one. So looking forward to that. Rhona, do you have anything this week?
Well, so I was literally saved by the bell. I forgot to get a drink, but I got the wrong grocery delivery to my house. They gave me someone else's delivery, and they drink this prime,
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know, energy drink. I don't know what it is. I'll just try it. I'm like, well, thanks. I guess this is what I'm drinking today.
made famous by 11-year-olds on TikTok.
Oh, really?
Well, it was a big TikTok thing a couple of years ago, and you couldn't get hold of it, and then Yeah, it was kind of crazy. But
That explains a lot because the rest of the stuff was all snacks and stuff like for kids. I'm like, well, I don't know who's eating all of this.
I just remember at the time my sons at primary school, and they were all going mad to try and get this Prime because people were talking about the internet. But anyway, I'll be interested to hear what it tastes like. So let's go. I'm going to open my Joker. Whoa, which is going a bit crazy. Hang on. There we are. Try not to spill it on anything. Here we go. Right. Any tasting notes on here? It just says it'll put a smile on your face. That's nice. Let's give it a try. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That tastes quite similar to the the full alcohol version. So well done for them for a good job. Tell us about Prime. Come on. I've never tried it myself, but tell us about it.
I don't know. I don't know if this is my thing. Cherry flavored coconut water might not be my thing. Um,
I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, so do you like it or don't you like it?
I think it's
Instant feedback.
very, very sweet. It's just like
Yeah.
coconut with cherry is something, I don't know. It's not my
Yeah.
thing.
It goes down well with 11-year-olds. Basically. That's probably
Because
best.
of the sweetness. I guess I'll probably be
Yeah.
hyper by the end of the
Yeah,
day
you
when
will
I
be
finish
just, by the time we
drinking
get to training or ending, you'll be just going crazy about career theft or whatever it was. Okay, anyway, enough beverage related japery. Let's move on to our first article. Okay, so Trump creates new immigration fees, $100,000 for tech visas and $1 million for permanent residency. So significant shake-up here to the US visa system. I'm going to kind of defer to you in a second, Rhona, as you're probably much closer to this than I am. But just some kind of observations from some sort of research I did around this. As far as there was some confusion as to when this was going to be implemented, whether it applied to people already in the system, people doing renewals, all that kind of stuff. I found an article that said it's new applications only, so I don't know whether that's changed. But if that's the case, then it means the effect of this is kind of delayed for 12 months because apparently everyone has their applications in the system for the next 12 months. So I suppose that's one point about it. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, does this give Americans more opportunity? Was this visa system being abused by companies, or even will we see other countries competing for talent that would have gone to the US? And I'm certainly, being outside of the US, I'm certainly seeing this discourse around that there's an opportunity here for other countries to take talent that might have been heading to the US. And I wonder whether in a year's time or 18 months' time, we might see US tech companies offshoring or subtly offshoring parts of their work. I don't know, but I'm going to ask Rhona for her view on. Give me your view on this one.
I'm going to give my view and try not to get myself deported because I'm an immigrant.
Main calm, yes.
I don't think, first of all, the whole framing of it being a tech visa really bothers me because H-1B visas aren't only for tech. Yes,
Okay.
a lot of people in tech use them, but actually most of the people that I know that are on H-1B visas right now are in healthcare, are in research, are clinical trials, things that will really benefit us here in the United States and in the world. And those are huge industries that are being impacted. I also think I just don't like the whole chaos around these new rules and how they're introduced on weekends, and you have HR people scrambling over the weekend, everyone saying, do we need to do this now? Is this something that comes into effect? We have X amount of hours. It's just a lot of the chaos around it. But I really think, as I was thinking about it this weekend, because again, you're the HR person, so people know you and they're like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? I'm getting all these texts over the weekend. I'm thinking this is really going to impact and affect universities and international students, because would I spend the hundreds of thousands of dollars to come and study here, hopefully to get a job, right? and it's so hard. It's already hard, but now it's even harder. I think that's something that we're not considering. I think this is probably everyone thinking, oh, this is going to make all these tech jobs be here for us. Not really, because tech is the industry that can most easily have anyone do the job from wherever they are.
Mm, mm,
So, really, who we have to look at is the other industries where we need people in person, the research, the healthcare, all these other industries are really going to be impacted by this, because who's really going to spend? There's already so much risk and expenses for hiring employees, as we know, and then adding this huge investment. I don't know. I
mm.
We'll see how this plays out, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the UK, there's not stuff quite like this, but there's been some visa changes that have dramatically disincentivized foreign students from coming to British universities, but almost as a side effect of kind of what happened. But it now means that a lot of the universities are close to going bankrupt, and there is a kind of a real brain drain in certain areas. And I think again it comes down to that, the kind of nuances around this sort of thing that actually. You can look at numbers on a sheet and say, right, we've got this many unemployed people, we've got this many vacancies. Well, they'll just fill each other if we take all these barriers out of the way. But there are huge differences in education systems around the world and
Yes.
the way that people develop talent. And we live in a global market, we live in a global economy, and if to me, surely this is part of being of being competitive and offering the best talent, the best reason to come and make your economy prosperous. But yeah, I guess like with all of these things, we'll kind of have to wait and see. But it is quite hard to find anyone who seems to be for this. Shall we say?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it has its people. And I read somewhere that some tech companies are on board with this. I don't know who they were talking to, but yeah, maybe some huge companies are on board with this, because now startups will never have a chance to
Mm,
hire
mm.
H1B talent. So yeah, maybe the huge tech companies are happy about this. Also, this article was mentioning something about $1 million for permanent residency or for green cards. I
Yeah,
mean, wow. Is, I
yeah.
guess, all I'll say about that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Enough said. And I guess it goes back to what we were talking about. I think it was last week we were talking about Meta's salary inflation and offering AI talent $100 million. So $100,000 out of $100 million is small change. But as you say, they're not the companies that are affected by this. And I hadn't realized that the impacts beyond the tech sector, and that is quite significant, because as you say, there are jobs that just can't be offshored or sort of contracted out elsewhere. So yeah, it's an interesting one. And again, like a lot of the things that are happening at the moment, it will just be interesting to see how that kind of tracks forward. And also, these things always come with unintended consequences. Or maybe they're all intended, I don't know, but that's certainly what we've seen in the UK with some of the visa stuff that's been going on in the last few years. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which is HR tech. Yes, HR tech. So we were talking about this extensively before we came on air. So I went and spent the 3 days there, and it was interesting. It's always interesting. I find it interesting to compare year to year in terms of how things are evolving. So last year was very much we've got AI, we've got AI, we've got AI kind of everywhere. And kind of disappointingly, we were still a little bit in that phase. I was hoping that we'd kind of moved into this is the value that our technology can bring you, and these are the use cases and the case studies. And there certainly was some of that, but not as much as I was hoping. I actually just published around my thoughts on a roundup on LinkedIn on this about half an hour ago. So if you check out my LinkedIn profile, you can kind of read. But these are the points that I pulled out. Be interesting to see what Rhona thinks. So the first one was software categories collapsing. So if you went to this show 3 or 4 years ago, you could say that's a sourcing platform, that's an ATS, that's a CRM, that's a whatever. And it just seems that everyone now wants to be everything.
Mm.
And I get it with AI. Data is the new competitive advantage, and the more data you have across the recruiting or ultimately the employee lifecycle, the better your system can work. So, I saw frontline hiring systems getting into onboarding, ATSs getting into sourcing, sourcing platforms getting into being ATSs. So, my sympathy with anyone trying to buy HR technology at the moment, because I think for what was a really confusing landscape, it's even more confusing now because it's very difficult to really understand what you're getting, and also to understand what's that company really good at if they do everything. What is it that's what's their kind of secret sauce, the thing that we really want to kind of buy into. So that was my first one. I also did feel that there was a kind of a development in the AI conversation, kind of seeing some foundations being laid. I had 3 or 4 really interesting conversations about conversational design interfaces for AI and how difficult they are to build, which was fascinating, but how great they are potentially for candidates. Um, Agentic AI was everywhere, but rather than just saying we've got an agent, everyone seemed to have 3 or 4 agents that all did different
Mm.
things. So that's interesting. Although I wonder whether their customers are at the right point to actually use those. There was a bit of a bubble around the whole thing. Um, and yeah, but also a lot of talk about open data. So a sense that having your platform open for third-party agents to visit it was a good thing. I got a couple more, but I'll pause there just to get Rhona's thoughts on those so far before I kind of overwhelm her with stuff. What do you think?
Well, I loved your summary as someone who wasn't there. I really wanted to know. These are the things that I wanted to know. So thank you so much for writing that. I mean, I think, yeah, and I've seen it. Obviously, a lot of companies that it's like, wait, you're doing this now, and I think it's kind of like to compete and everything. But I think that really, instead of going the all-in-one route, we do everything because we can type of thing. I'm always going to be an advocate for. Specialize and maybe focus on, like you said, the data flow and the sharing and the integration. um, I really think those are the people that are going to win. Yes, there's definitely room and use cases for all in one type of software, but everyone doesn't have to do it because every company doesn't need it. And that's just putting on my software engineer hat, type of thing. You don't, it's just, I personally, not the route I would go. I really am excited, cautiously excited to see the user adoption side of this and really what's going to happen. That's really where I want to see all of this go, because yes, we've had this is year 2 of yay, we have AI, everyone has AI. How are people literally really using this in the day to day? I think voice of the customer and of the user is missing in a lot of the stuff that I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose the other 2 points that I add to that, I think there was this sense of the AIing of everything. If it moves in the recruitment process, we're going to AI it to just AI. And the more sensible conversations I had, people were like, you know what, we're not going to AI everything. We're going to see where it is best applied. And I just think and we've talked about this before, where you kind of split recruitment into its component parts and treat each one individually, rather than looking at it much more holistically and saying, do we need to even do that anymore? Now we've got AI. So that was one thing. But then to your point about the voice of the user, really the voice of the candidate from a TA perspective. I felt I was in a kind of a massive happy bubble about how AI is great. But all around this, there are articles and posts and things appearing all the time. Candidates complaining about candidate experience. Media publishing articles blaming AI for it. And actually, as an industry, we're not really out there pushing the real positive aspects of AI that actually, this could massively improve the candidate experience. And in some cases, is already improving the candidate experience. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not talking to robots. And actually, it's probably much better than the experience you're getting at the moment. So I was just kind of disappointed that there isn't that sort of that vision out there to illustrate how AI is going to make things better for everyone. And that's my biggest disappointment, that we don't have that.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. But it was a great show. It was great to see lots of people in person. And as I said in my article, it kind of proved to me that being human is still a very important part of all of this. So there we go. There are 2 articles. Now, we're going to move on to the Situation Room, where we have virtual Jocelyn to tell us some stuff. We'll be back.
Hi, Matt. Okay, so we do have a bit of a situation. A company hired somebody for a senior engineering role, and on paper, he was perfect. Strong portfolio, great interviews, glowing references. But within a couple months, there were some subtle red flags that started popping, like missed stand ups or delayed responses, deadline slipping, always with some type of reasonable excuse. So uh, the manager spoke with his manager, and they did a little investigation and found out that this employee was working 6 full-time remote jobs. Yeah, 6, including 2 with their direct competitors. So they confronted him. He didn't even deny it. He said he'd systemized his life to manage multiple roles and didn't see an issue as long as he delivered. But here's the thing, he wasn't delivering. The team was depending on him and he wasn't there. So now leadership is grappling with how to respond, and they're talking about stricter policies like mandatory cameras being on, activity tracking, and more oversight. But that's not really the way to go about it, right? When we talk about trust in the workplace, we have to remember remote work isn't broken, trust is in that situation. So reflect on how one bad actor, like this senior engineer, can jeopardize the flexibility and autonomy that remote work offers. And really consider the fact that the solution isn't surveillance, it's better hiring, clearer accountability, and stronger culture. So how do we preserve trust in a distributed world without turning into Big Brother? Another thing that I thought was interesting was this idea of overemployment. So what does it say about the system when someone can juggle 6 jobs? There's this, potential rise of overemployment as a phenomenon, and it's enabled by remote work, but it's driven by deeper issues like job insecurity, burnout, and even greed. And then, another thing to consider in this, Matt, is that leadership in the age of digital disguise can at times make it so that one, you know, really instead needs to consider what they can't see can still be managed, right? So you should talk about tension between autonomy and accountability in remote teams as an HR professional. You should share how leaders can build visibility without micromanagement through outcomes and not optics. So, it kind of leads to this question: how do we preserve trust in remote work without resorting to surveillance? So, trust is built through clarity, not control. Surveillance might feel like a quick fix, but it erodes the very autonomy that makes remote work powerful. Instead, I would suggest doubling down on clear expectations and deliverables, um, frequent, meaningful check ins, and a culture where people feel safe to speak up when something's off. Another thought that I'd considered too was, what does accountability look like when we're not in the same room? So, accountability in remote environments isn't about watching, it's about alignment. And I talked a little bit about this when I mentioned clear expectation. It means everybody knows what success looks like. Progress feels visible and measurable. And very importantly, feedback flows both ways. So I would really encourage HR professionals to consider this, particularly things around feedback and clear expectations and accountability, because again, This isn't about optics. This is about accountability. So, putting together the systems in place to support that visibility and ownership and trust is really critical.
Wow. 6 full-time jobs. I mean, even to go through the recruitment process for
I
6 jobs
know.
at once is quite impressive. I think Jocelyn makes some great points there. I mean, there is this sort of sense of one person spoiling it for everyone else, and I know that I've kind of seen this quite a lot in the interview and assessment space with, fake candidates and candidate fraud, people instantly demanding that all interviews should now be face-to-face because of this problem, which kind of seems to be missing the point a bit. What do you think, Rhona?
I mean, Jocelyn made really good points. And, anyone who's listened to the show, anyone who's listened to my show, Workfluencer, knows I'm a huge fan of like side hustles and multiple jobs. I've done it myself. One thing, if you can. So when I hear the story, I know immediately everyone's going to think, oh, he was failing or they were failing because they had 6 jobs. Is that really the reason? Was there feedback? What are we talking? Like, is it really the 6 jobs? That's one thing. Second, the over indexing, because we've all worked at these companies. Well, I have, where one issue happens, and now all of a sudden the solution is everyone is going to be cameras. I even had people try to have me roll out keystroke and like key logging. I'm like, we're absolutely not tracking what every employee types, and I'm not reading it. No one on my team's reading that. Like, what are we talking about? So yes, it can destroy it for all. I think it's going to continue to happen. I think blaming remote work isn't really gonna take us anywhere. And like Jocelyn said, surveillance isn't the solution. I think as a manager, these are things that you should have probably been able to pick up on early on by having those one-on-ones, by talking to people, giving them actual feedback, because I don't think this person probably started with 6 jobs at the same time. It's probably something that went on gradually. So when someone's performance is being impacted for whatever reason, those conversations need to be had immediately. And that's how you start getting this information and know before it gets to 6 jobs. But I mean, at the end of the day, I I'm surprised that this person thought that they were doing good and juggling 6 jobs.
Maybe the question is, if they'd only had 4 jobs, would they would it have been better than 6? But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think this is a leadership issue more than I think. There's 2 things here. There's a leadership issue here. How can you really not know that one of your employees is doing 5 other jobs? And what are the processes? How close was that leader to them? Some real questions about leading remote teams and those kind of things. But also, it's probably a question about productivity here. If you could get away with doing 6 jobs or 3 jobs or 2 jobs or 4 jobs, what does that tell us about the jobs?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's he may have done that company a favor by pointing out things that could be automated or whatever that was. But I think I think the leadership thing is the big thing here. It's easy to blame the employee or the system or whatever it is, but really you've got to think about how you're leading how you're leading a remote team if that kind of thing happens. I also suspect that this is far more widespread than people think. That's my suspicion anyway. Do you think it is?
Yeah, I 100% think it is. I think it's not talked about a lot because, I mean, I've worked at places where I've been in trouble and talked to because someone saw that I took a day off to do a workshop because I posted about it on LinkedIn. And it's like, you're doing a workshop for another company, you have another job. It's like, I took the day off. It literally didn't impact you in any way. So I think that's why people don't talk about having side hustles or having multiple jobs or doing things like that, because you immediately get in trouble. So it's also kind of like, again, conversations, leadership, adjusting to the times, and then people will be more open to share that, and then you'll be able to monitor and know, okay, maybe 3 is your max because 4 is now I'm seeing issues with your performance type of thing.
And it's like if someone's doing 3 jobs and they're doing them all brilliantly and there isn't any kind of issues with confidentiality, is that a bad thing? That's the
Yeah.
question, because I think we're heading to a world of work where people could well all be working for multiple companies and businesses all at the same time. In which case, this guy's a trailblazer.
And something I forgot to mention, I wrote it here in my notes. A lot of people don't understand the criminal or potential criminal implications that you could have with doing stuff like if you can't be working for competitors, there's probably something in your
Yep.
agreement about that. And you can't be doing these, like, even if your agreement says you can't have more than one job and you agreed to that because you signed it, you agreed, you're there, that's an issue. And again, that's something people really need to take seriously, because I have seen companies go after employees for doing things like this. And now all of a sudden you have a charge on your record that
Absolutely.
no
Mm,
one will ever look over, let's be
mm,
honest,
mm.
because
And
it's directly related
yeah,
to work.
and there's tax implications and all that sort of stuff as well. No, it's interesting. It's a real kind of situation, but also a challenge. So this guy got caught doing 6 jobs. Can you not get caught doing 6 jobs and maybe do 7? So we'll see. We'll await the next revelation. Thank you, Rhona, and thank you very much, Jocelyn, for pre-recording that for us. And we'll look forward to seeing you live and face to face next week. So let's move on to our guest. Hi, Patti. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Nice to see you, Matt.
It's brilliant to have you here. Could we start off? Could you just introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do?
Sure. I'm Patti Tabris. I am Senior Director of Talent Acquisition in our Talent Acquisition Innovation team. And I work for ResultsCX. We're a global customer experience management company. We're in 9 countries. And my team and I handle all of our technology stack for talent acquisition, processes. We deal with our vendors. We really put the plan in place how our recruiters are going to recruit. We're a high volume environment. So when I say customer experience management, a lot of people know that as outsourced call centers. So we're hired by large companies who need someone to help with their customer experience.
Fantastic. And what would you say the main challenges are from a TA perspective?
I would say hiring at the volume that we need and trying to keep turnover down. A lot of times it's not just the hiring, but it's the replacements of people. It's a high volume on a lower end level position. So we just even getting people to show up for their day one. That's another challenge that we face.
I can imagine. So you were recently honoured as an AI champion in the ISG Women in Digital Awards. So congratulations on that. Tell us about it. What was that about? What was it in kind of recognition of?
So that was something that I was put up for that award based on my colleagues in my company, and so it was really special for me because it was something that I had no idea was even out there, and I found out about it because my name was thrown in the hat by some of the people I work for, and it's a great award organization. They look for women in technology that are pushing the boundaries, doing something different with whether it's AI or different types of technology. The AI champion for me was really special because I'm passionate about how we can use AI without eliminating everyone. So how do we look at different technology that offers AI experience, but make it so that it's not taking away the human side of talent acquisition. So
Cool. No, absolutely. So tell us about how are you kind of applying AI and what you're doing right now? Talk us through that.
So because of high volume, we want to try to get our candidates through the candidate journey as quickly as possible so that we don't lose them to competitors, but also so we want to keep that experience really hands-on for them. And candidates get frustrated when they get stalled along the way and they don't know why. But that's something that it's tough for talent acquisition teams to keep in touch with those candidates on a continual basis, giving them the information that they need day to day to day. So we're using uh, contextual AI throughout our process to really help cover the administrative tasks of outreach, response to candidates, answering questions. There's a lot of hand-holding in the process, but to move quickly through it, you don't need your recruiters tied up in that. So we've been really successful in using AI in the front end, and it's with an AI recruiting assistant that we've installed. And now we're looking at doing more of that in our back end to help us with our pre-boarding tasks. Once someone's accepted an offer, we don't want to forget about them. We want to make sure that they know we're there and we're looking forward and excited to get them started.
So I suppose going back to something that we were talking about earlier in the show, this is a case where AI is probably radically improving the candidate experience.
I hope so. We get very positive feedback from our candidates. It's funny because we're able to see the interaction with our candidates with our AI recruiting assistant. And we've even seen where the candidates ask her out or ask her questions about her life. And it's comical, but that's a win. If they're feeling that comfortable and being able to ask the questions and getting their answers, moved through that process really quickly. It's really exciting. We were able to get from the time a candidate enters and chats with our AI assistant to the point of being scheduled for an interview down to a median of 6 to 7 minutes, which is remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. That's like something that people wouldn't even really have dreamed of just a few years ago.
I know.
Yeah. And ultimately, it's like that's what candidates want.
Yes, they do. But they also want to know that there's someone there that is really looking at them, and I think candidates want to be seen. There may be valid reasons why we can't move forward with a candidate or why we choose one candidate over another, but as long as they know that they were seen by your company and you're not just ghosting them. I know we see that a lot. And, I read a lot about candidates being frustrated. A lot of candidates are frustrated because they don't understand why they're not even being contacted. By using an AI recruiting assistant, I say she's one of our best hires. She works 24/7. She's working multiple jobs for us, but she works
more than 6.
Yes, much more than 6 because she's in all our countries. But she works 24/7, and it's interesting. We found candidates, not 80% of our candidates are applying through their mobile devices, and at more than 50% of them are contacting us on off hours. So we have candidates applying at 1 a.m, 2 a.m, and they're getting connected and someone's moving them through the process. And if that's the time that they're available to do their application, that's a wonderful thing. They're getting a feeling like they're being seen.
And how about the human recruiter aspect to this? So kind of balancing the technology. Obviously, this is a great experience for the candidates that you can do that. Where do the human recruiters fit in, and where is that kind of machine human split?
So our philosophy, the philosophy we're following at this moment, and I have to say, AI is affecting us and it's changing rapidly. Where we are today is not where we're going to be in 5 years. We all know that. But I think we have to look at it as, to me, we have to look at how do we keep that human touch in there, at least until we're 100% confident that the empathy and the ability to really make a great choice is really available in an AI. and it's not just about the numbers. So we're looking at what can we do within our process with using our AI assistant that'll free up more time for our recruiters to spend with the candidates, especially in a high volume. If we can have, like, we're working right now on expanding what we're doing to more pre-screening, more in-depth pre-screening. How do we determine who gets an interview, who doesn't get an interview? So that we can maximize those interview times. So I think that's really the key to it, is allowing us to offer the candidate the opportunity to ask as many questions and get really thorough answers, using a generative AI, contextual AI, to answer recruiting questions or company questions about our company ahead of time. Say that it takes that out of the interview because they feel satisfied they've got the information they need. Then you could focus more on evaluating that candidate and we also do a very I love the assessment we're using. We found an assessment that only takes a few minutes, but it's founded in the Big Five philosophy. It's a behavioral assessment. Cool. And we do work with the psychologists that look at the psychometrics. We're constantly reviewing the data to see how we could tweak that and how we can adjust it so that it's really working for our candidate base. So we've tried to place different technology in the stream of our candidate journey so that we can focus really on that conversation when we get them.
And how's that assessment? Is that now earlier in the process than it was when you didn't have the technology?
Yeah, it is. We use it not as a knockout. We never disposition someone based on their assessment score, and they score more high, medium, and low. We just move our candidates along based on to an interview if they're high and medium. If they score low, we bucket them and then we review them in more detail before we schedule them for the interview. So I think that's really key. A lot of people think, assessment knockout. No, I don't agree with that, at least not now. Whether that's going to change as AI develops more, it may be a possibility.
And I just want to kind of get your advice to other TA leaders listening who are trying to sort of put AI into their systems. I suppose there's two parts to this. One of the things that I've heard, in recent months is companies are really struggling with legal teams and compliance, and employers are very jittery about some aspects of AI. How do you kind of navigate that as a TA leader?
One of the things that I pointed out is not knocking out, not letting AI knock out a candidate. I think that's key. I think working closely with your legal teams, working closely with your security teams and your compliance teams. I would recommend forge a good relationship internally with the people that you need to rely on. Don't try to do it all on your own. And have those conversations early. Don't wait until you're implementing and then try to figure it out. This is something that I lean on my partners in compliance and security. I was fortunate. I hired our chief legal counsel, so I have a good.
That's it. That's the advice right there.
Build those internal relationships so that when you are ready to do something like this, you can have conversations and you have the support of your teams.
And also it's about providing valuable context, isn't it? Because legal teams can't know the nuances of every sort of aspect of this kind of thing. Right. And just in terms of how should people keep themselves up to speed with AI? How do you make sure your team are kind of as up to date as they possibly can be?
Read and research. I think make time to learn. Something that is. I think something in my personality that got me to where I am is that I feel I'm a lifelong learner. I love solving puzzles. I love to hear a different way of doing something, and don't think you know it all. You never can know it all. You have to be out there listening, have the conversation, listen to the podcasts. look up the research. I started looking at AI 6, 7 years ago, before it was the buzzword, because you just get that feeling something's happening with this. It's going somewhere, and I wasn't alone, because there were companies out there already developing all of this. So get in on the ground floor when you see something interesting. Try to partner with people. Trade-off services. I'm willing to try something new with one of my vendors and be in a beta just to find out more about it. I think people don't take, we're all busy. We're all trying to do not 6 jobs, but at least 2, because everybody's running so lean. I know I get asked to do extra things every day of the week, and my team, we're stretched. But it's important to take that half hour and watch a podcast, or look up I get, when you get hit with emails from so many vendors, pick and choose a few to have a conversation with.
No, I think that's fantastic. That's fantastic advice. And very last question for you: what does the future look like? Where are we going next? What's your kind of vision for sort of moving forward with this?
Oh, wow. So right now we're in the process of doing a full implementation of an conversational AI ATS. So that's where my head is right now. But I definitely see in the future, we're going to see a lot more virtual recruiters that, I'm already seeing interviewing being done by AI, and I can't tell the difference. And when I see those demos, it's really, I don't know, there's a little fear there. There's excitement, definitely, but also a little fear. And I want to be involved in it so I can see where it's going.
Absolutely. Patti, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Cool. Okay, let's go to trending or ending.
So I haven't been able to stop thinking about this one. A freelance writer named Jolissa Sko just found out that someone's been living her entire professional life since 2023. And I mean living it. This person didn't just steal her resume. They took her name, her portfolio, her headshot, her writing samples, even listed her home address as their own for over a year. This imposter was showing up in company Slack channels, joining team meetings with the camera conveniently off, claiming some speech impediment, and getting paychecks while everyone thought that they were working with the real Jolissa. And the thing is, this wasn't even the first time. Earlier this year, she got a 1099 tax form delivered to her address for $300 for a company that she had never heard of. When she contacted them, they're like, oh, well, maybe you just don't remember writing the article. But life got busy, so she just let it slide, thinking, well, someone just wanted a quick $300. And that was the wrong move because this person was playing the long game. They'd been building an entire shadow career using Jolissa's identity. And the only reason she found out was because someone tagged her in a LinkedIn post thanking her for being such a wonderful coworker at a company she'd never worked for. So this is what's really making me freak out, right? Because we're out here posting our portfolios, our bios, our best work online because that's how you build a personal brand in 2025, right? And at the same time, it's literally never been easier to steal someone's entire professional identity. And then the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center basically told her, yeah, good luck with that, because internet crime is so rampant that they can't even investigate most cases. And then also hiring managers, 17% of them said that they've interviewed deepfake candidates with lip sync videos and synthetic voices, like 17%. And we've talked about this before. So, what do you think, Matt? Career identity theft, is that trending or ending? Because from where I'm sitting, with AI getting more advanced and accessible by the day, and remote work here to stay, this feels like we're just seeing the beginning. And if you're not Googling yourself regularly, you might already have a work twin out there that's collecting paychecks in your name. This really makes me think I should plan a series of on Workfluencer about protecting your personal brand from impersonation.
Yeah, I don't know whether trending or ending. It's certainly terrifying. Yeah, absolutely terrifying that this is kind of even possible. No one's sort of stolen my career as such, but a couple of years ago, I had an incident with my identity on LinkedIn. What happened was someone was defrauding people in the Netherlands by advertising an apartment that they were renting and taking deposits from people for the apartment, and they picked a place where it's very difficult to find places to rent, and they were using my LinkedIn profile and my name and my photo as to legitimize the what was going on. And I found this out because I kept getting messages from people going, "Do you own an apartment in Rotterdam or wherever it was?" I was like, "No, what are you talking about? I live in Scotland." And yeah, there was like 4 or 5 people who kind of got caught up in this scam. And I went to I reported it to the publisher who was publishing the advertisement, and I didn't even get a reply. It was just terrible. So yeah, it's I can totally see how this can happen. It's yeah,
I
terrifying.
think it's something that we're going to see more and more. And I haven't had my professional per se identity stolen that way, but as a business owner, of agency, I've had people tell me, "Hey, I'm working with so and so from your team, and they haven't delivered." And I'm like, "What? Who? I don't even know this person." It's like, "Oh, this person has you on their portfolio, some of your videos on their portfolio saying that they work for you and they're really the ones doing the work behind your agency." I'm like, "Well, hope you get your money back, because I don't know who this person is. And this is how
Mm.
easy it is to download a video from LinkedIn, add it to your portfolio, and say that you do the types of video." So it's happening. It's out there. There's always been bad people and scammers. I just think it's a lot easier now. So you really need to be protecting yourself and like Google yourself.
And we've not even got into the deep fake side of this. Just the particularly as trying to give people ideas, but particularly as podcasters, there's so much of our voice out there. I've kind of been experimenting with cloning my own voice, and there is security around it, but it's easy to get around. So you could actually sound like someone as well if you're going on those calls with a permanently broken webcam. I think that's something else to think about. So I think you're right. I think googling yourself, being just aware of what's going on is a key part of this. But there's I suppose it's around this whole bigger question of fraud and impersonation and all of those kind of things. So employers need to be super kind of aware of this as well, don't they?
Yeah, employers need to be aware of it. And I really think, as citizens of wherever country you live in, you really have to be um, on your law enforcement. This isn't something where they can say, like, "Oh, well, scams happen." It's like, no, no, no. We need to get people trained into investigating this, and this needs to become a thing. It's 2025. We can't be like, "Oh, well, this just happens." This is literally people's lives being impacted because of impersonation. So I really think, as citizens, we need to be um, I want to say it in a way that I'm not inciting anything, but we need to be more like, we need to require more of law enforcement agencies where we live, and this is globally.
Yeah, because I think the impact of this is significant, because it's not just an impact that's financial or an impact on someone's personal brand. There's a really strong emotional impact on this as well. But because when if your house gets burgled, there's a big kind of emotional impact around that your personal space has been violated, and you're not safe. And I can imagine that this is, in some ways, is probably even worse, because your whole person is kind of out there. So I think that it probably would have a significant emotional impact on someone if it happened to them.
I can say, without giving too much information, that it absolutely does. I won't talk about it because there's an active case, but yes, as
Yeah.
someone who's this has happened to on a certain amount of level, yes, it does have a emotional impact on you, because, like you said, it's just like when someone breaks into your house, you feel like, this was my safe space, and someone came into it, just knowing that someone was able to do something or impersonate you or use your identity and your reputation in a way that you didn't approve is a feeling like I can't explain it.
Mm, mm. And I mean, there are laws being broken here because ultimately employers are being defrauded if they're paying people who aren't who they say they are or what they say they do. So so significant kind of implications. What would your advice be to recruiters to in this crazy world to deal with some of these issues?
I know we don't like to say it, but Google people. And just because you found something on Google doesn't mean that you discredit the person. You ask questions. Armed with information that you found, you ask questions. Hey, I'm interviewing you for this role. I saw you just started working at or XYZ. What's going on there? Why is that? Or something like that. Like this, just start the conversation. And trust me, a scammer doesn't want to work that hard. They will move on. They'll ghost you because it's like they're on to me.
And I think it's also really important to understand how some of these scams happen, how they're so sophisticated, how they kind of set pathways for you. Because sometimes, you can get not necessarily this kind of scam, but you can Google a specific thing, and they've almost kind of put their link, in there to do that. So I think really becoming aware of how these scams happen is really important. And I think when you look into it, it's always the humans that are the weakest link. We blame technology, but very often it's humans kind of making decisions that they shouldn't do, or being persuaded to kind of not be as diligent as perhaps they should.
And this is not official advice, but if anyone wants to DM me, I can give you a list of all of the documentaries that I binge and watch on Netflix about scammers and impersonation. It really helps. I've always been a fan of these things, and it always helped me be able to ask questions when things were seeming kind of off. So yes, education and being aware that it exists and how people do it will help you. So if you want some Netflix recommendations, DM me.
Please send them to me. I love this kind of. I don't love this kind of thing, but I do like. I do like learning about it. So yeah, I'm hoping this isn't trending, but I don't think this is going to be the last case that we see like this.
Unfortunately.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for bringing it up. I'm going to now be thinking about this for the rest of the day. So thank you very much for bringing that to us. And thank you for being on the show as ever. And looking forward to talking again next week.
See you next week.
Awesome. So that brings us to the end of another show. So huge thank you to Rhona, to virtual pre-recorded Jocelyn, and to Patti for being absolutely brilliant. Thanks, of course, to Alan, our long-suffering producer, for holding the whole thing together. There are so many great shows in the Purple Acorn lineup, including Rhona's podcast, Workfluencer, which I really recommend you check out this week. The guest is fascinating. Coming up on Purple Acorn this week, there's the HR Morning Show, which I think I'm on actually. So you can't get rid of me this week. HR Morning Show, From the Desk, My First Job, From Ecstasy, so many other great shows coming up. So if you go to Purple Acorn's LinkedIn page, that is the best place to follow all of them. And you can find out about the shows in more detail by going to purpleacornnetwork.com. This show is, of course, available as a podcast wherever you listen to your quality podcasts. If you want to check out my longer form interviews on Recruiting Future, that is also available wherever you listen to your quality podcasts. And make sure you listen to the Alder Hour as well while you're there. So we will be back next week, and I'm already looking forward to it. This is Matt Alder, checking out.